This is how I learned English without traveling, without pain, and from home. I didn't grow up surrounded by people who spoke English. I wasn't born in an English-speaking country. I never had the chance to travel abroad, to live in the US or the UK, or even to attend fancy language schools. But something inside me whispered that English would open doors to opportunities, to confidence, to dreams I hadn't yet dared to speak aloud. At first, it felt impossible. I was just a kid with an old phone, a shaky Wi-Fi signal, and a deep longing to grow. Everyone told me it would be too hard without a teacher, without money, without immersion, but I decided to prove them wrong. Not to be rebellious, but because deep down, I wanted to believe I was capable of something big. And so I started, slowly, quietly, alone. The first step was to surround myself with English. Even if I didn't understand anything, I changed the language settings on my phone. I followed English-speaking creators on social media. I started watching cartoons and YouTube videos with subtitles, repeating what I heard, mimicking their accents, guessing meanings from context. It felt like playing a game. Some words sounded funny, others felt familiar, and some stayed with me for days. I repeated them to myself while walking, cleaning, or brushing my teeth. I didn't memorize lists or take notes at first. I just listened. I allowed English to become the background music of my life, even when it made no sense. I stayed curious, and slowly, the chaos began to turn into patterns. I remember the first time I understood a full sentence without subtitles. It was a YouTube vlog, and the girl said, "I'm so tired. I need coffee." It was simple, but to me, it was magic. I paused the video, replayed it, and shouted the sentence aloud. "I'm so tired. I need coffee." I said it again and again. That moment felt like the beginning of something real. I wasn't just a learner anymore. I was starting to understand. That tiny victory gave me hope. If I could understand one sentence, maybe I could understand 10, maybe 100, maybe speak them too. I didn't have a textbook or a curriculum. I had curiosity. That became my biggest tool. I began to follow English podcasts, especially ones about motivation or daily life. I couldn't catch every word, but I trained my ears like muscles. Every day, I listened while walking or doing chores. I began to hear the rhythm of the language, the rise and fall, the pauses, the speed. I repeated phrases under my breath, sometimes out loud when no one was around. It felt silly, but I knew that behind every silly practice was a future conversation I'd win, a future job I'd get, a future version of me, confident and fluent. And then came the magic of subtitles. I started watching Netflix series in English with English subtitles. Not Spanish, not translation, real English. At first, it was overwhelming, but I paused, rewound, wrote down expressions I liked. I started a notebook not for grammar rules, but for real-life phrases. That makes sense. Are you kidding me? No way. I didn't even know what kidding meant at first, but I used it anyway. Practicing with phrases made English feel alive. Not like a school subject, like a voice, a personality, like someone I could become. The real turning point came when I discovered shadowing. I read about it in a blog post from a girl who also learned English without classes. The idea was simple: repeat everything you hear in real time. I picked a short video just a minute long. I played it and tried to say what the speaker said, copying the tone, the rhythm, even the pauses. At first, I felt ridiculous. I sounded nothing like them, but I didn't stop. Every day, I practiced with that same video until I could say every word with confidence. Then I moved on to another video, then another. It was like singing along to a song until you knew it by heart, except this time, I was training my speaking muscle and it worked out. My pronunciation started to change. Friends noticed. They asked, "How did you get that accent?" I smiled. Because the answer wasn't fancy, it was effort. It was hours of repeating, failing, and trying again. It was mimicking vloggers, voice actors, and podcasts. I wasn't born with it, I built it. And that gave me pride. I realized that fluency isn't just about vocabulary. It's about confidence. It's about sounding like you belong in the conversation even if you're still learning. And with every word I practiced, I began to believe I did belong. Then came writing. I used to think writing in English was only for native speakers. But one night, I opened a journal and wrote a single line. Today I listened to a podcast in English. That was it. No grammar check. No corrections. Just me and my thoughts. Every night after that, I wrote one more line, then a paragraph, then a full page. Sometimes it was messy. Sometimes it was full of errors. But it was real. It was mine. Over time, I started to think in English. Not all the time, but enough to feel something shift inside my brain. English wasn't just a language anymore. It was becoming part of how I express myself. I never had a teacher, but I had questions and I wasn't afraid to find the answers. I Googled everything. What's the difference between say and tell? How do you pronounce thought? What does literally really mean? I watched explanations, read comments, and practiced the answers out loud. Learning alone doesn't mean learning in silence. The internet became my classroom. YouTube became my tutor. Reddit became my discussion group. And I was the most curious student in the room. Mistakes. I made thousands. I once said I'm boring instead of I'm bored. People laughed. So, did I said I have 25 years instead of I'm 25. I forgot the S in third person. I used funny when I meant fun. But every mistake taught me something. Every correction made me sharper. I stopped fearing errors. I welcomed them. Because every time I got something wrong, I was one step closer to getting it right. And that's the secret no one tells you. Mistakes are how fluency is built, not avoided. Asterisk, there were days when I felt stuck. Like I wasn't making progress. I would listen to a podcast and not understand a thing. I'd try to read a post and give up after the second sentence. Those moments hurt. I'd ask myself, am I wasting my time? But then I remembered how far I had come. Just a few months ago, I didn't even recognize a single sentence. Now I could understand jokes, directions, stories. Progress isn't loud. It's quiet, invisible. It happens when you're not looking. And on those hard days, I chose not to quit. I chose to trust the process. That's what made all the difference. Music helped more than I expected. I started listening to English songs and reading the lyrics. At first, I just sang along, even if I didn't understand every word. But soon, I began to feel the meaning behind the lyrics. I looked up expressions, slang, and idioms from my favorite songs. I sang them with passion, emotion, and sometimes tears. Music connected me to the language in a deeper way. It wasn't just learning, it was feeling. I learned how to say I miss you, I'm sorry, and I love you through songs. That kind of learning doesn't fade, it stays with your heart, eventually. I built habits around my English. I created a routine: morning coffee English, podcast, washing dishes, YouTube video, walking to work, music in English, before bed. One page in my journal, written in English. These small actions turned into big results. I didn't cram. I didn't force myself. I just made English part of my life. It wasn't homework. It was lifestyle. And that changed everything. Because when something becomes part of your routine, you no longer fight to learn, it just happens. And every day, without realizing it, I was becoming fluent. Speaking still felt scary. I had no one to talk to. But I didn't wait. I created imaginary conversations. I talked to myself in English in front of the mirror. I practiced ordering food, asking questions, giving directions out loud. I even argue with myself in English. Just for practice. It felt silly, but it gave me confidence. Then one day, I found a language exchange partner online, a real person. Nervous, I joined a video call. My heart was racing, but I spoke, slowly, broken, but I did it. That first conversation changed me. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. I was finally using everything I had learned. The more I spoke, the more natural it became. I didn't think in Spanish and translate anymore. English words started coming first. I realized I was dreaming in English. I was thinking in English. That moment hit me hard. I had done it. I had crossed the line between learner and speaker. And I hadn't traveled. I hadn't paid for a single class. I had done it all from home with a heart full of hope and a mind hungry to grow. That realization brought me to tears because no one believed it was possible, not even me, at the beginning. But now I knew it was. People started noticing, your English is really good. They'd say, where did you study? And I'd smile and say, at home. Their faces always showed surprise. No one expects someone to speak fluently without classes, without travel, without money. But that's exactly what I wanted to prove, that it's not about where you are. It's about how hungry you are to learn. I wasn't smarter than anyone. I didn't have special resources. I just refused to stop. I made English my daily habit, my invisible friend, my quiet obsession, and that made all the difference. I started reading books. Not classics at first, those were too difficult. I began with children's books, then short stories, then novels. I read with a pencil in my hand, underlining new words, guessing meanings, writing tiny notes. Some days, I'd spend 15 minutes on one page. But it didn't matter. I was building something. I was feeding my vocabulary one word at a time. Books gave me the language of thought, of imagination, of deeper understanding. And suddenly, English wasn't just a tool, it became a doorway into other lives, other feelings, other worlds. My favorite part was discovering how English helped me understand myself better. I could express things I didn't know how to say in my own language. I could describe emotions, dreams, doubts, and joys with new words. English wasn't just a second language, it was a second voice. It allowed me to see myself in new ways, to be more creative, more open, more daring. And when I felt overwhelmed, when life got hard, I journal in English. Somehow, writing in another language made things feel less heavy. It gave me distance. It gave me clarity. It gave me peace. Eventually, I realized I wasn't just learning English, I was changing my life. I had opened doors I didn't know existed. I applied for remote jobs that needed English. I joined international communities. I made friends from around the world. People I would have never met if I hadn't learned this language. And they didn't care about my accent or my grammar mistakes. They cared about my ideas, my kindness, my ability to connect. English became my bridge, not just to opportunities, but to human connection, to stories, to moments I'll never forget. I look back now and smile at the journey. The first day I played a video and couldn't understand a word. The night I repeated "I need coffee" 100 times. The moments of frustration, the laughter, the tears, every part of that journey was worth it. Because today, I speak English fluently, not perfectly, but proudly. And I did it all without leaving my country, without spending money, and without ever sitting in a classroom. If I did it, so can you? The tools are in your hands. The only thing you need is to begin. Asterisk, so if you're reading this and thinking, I could never do that, I'm here to tell you you can. You don't need a plane ticket. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't even need a teacher. What you need is commitment. You need to believe that every small step matters. Watching 5 minutes of a video, repeating a phrase until it sticks, writing a sentence at night, even when you're tired. Those are the bricks. They build the foundation. And one day, without realizing it, you'll look around and see you built something strong, something real, something that belongs to you. Don't wait for the perfect moment. It won't come. Don't wait for motivation, it fades. What lasts is habit. Create space in your day for English, even if it's just 10 minutes. Listen while you cook. Speak while you walk. Think while you clean. Make English part of your life. Like a song you keep humming. Over time, that song becomes a soundtrack. And that soundtrack becomes a story. Your story. The one where you go from silence to speech, from fear to freedom. All from the place you're in right now. I didn't have confidence at the beginning. I was scared of sounding stupid. I was afraid people would laugh. But you know what I learned? Confidence doesn't come first. Action comes first. You act, you speak, you try, and confidence follows. Like a shadow. Like a friend who was waiting to see if you'd show up. And once it appears, everything changes. You start saying more, asking questions, making jokes. You become someone who isn't just learning English, you're living it, wearing it, owning it. So don't focus on being perfect. Focus on being brave. Be brave enough to watch without subtitles. Be brave enough to speak out loud. Be brave enough to make mistakes, to look silly, to learn in public. Because that's where the real growth happens. Not in silence. Not in perfection, but in motion. You don't have to be amazing to begin. You just have to begin to become amazing. And believe me, you're already more capable than you think. I wrote this for the person I used to be. The one who doubted. The one who hesitated. The one who almost gave up. I wrote it for you, too. Because I want you to know that it's possible. Learning English from home, without money, without travel, it's possible. I'm the proof. And if this story lights even the smallest spark inside you, then hold on to it. Protect it. Feed it. And let it grow. One day, you'll look back, just like I did, and say with pride, this is how I learned English without traveling, without pain, and from home.